All right, so Foundations of Math in Pre-Cal 10. This is section 1.1, and we're going to talk about imperial measures of length. So imperial units. Now, in Canada here, we use SI units, okay, or metric units. And the imperial units are, well, they kind of come from the old imperial empire or the English empire. And you've heard of these before, you've seen these before. They are used in certain situations. Certain industries use imperial measures of length. And that is like inches, okay, and feet. We use feet to measure height a lot, right? Miles, yards. So yards when you play football, right? 10 yards for a first down, that's yards. That's an imperial unit of length. And so miles, yards, feet, inches, those are imperial measures of length. And the ones that we're most familiar with are the metric units, like centimeters and meters and kilometers, right? So the speed that you travel in your car, kilometers per hour or kilometers per hour. If you're in track, right, you're running a race, it's a 100 meters race or a 400 meter race. So those are the metric units. They call them the SI system of units. That's the System International. Originally, this was a French kind of name. So it's the SI system of measures. That's what we commonly call the metric system, okay? So centimeters and meters is the SI system of measures, or the metric system. And inches and feet and yards and miles would be the imperial units, okay? So that, first of all, you need to understand that there is a little bit of a difference. Now, the reason why we still have and use imperial units and have to learn about them is twofold. First, the land that we occupy here, okay, it's measured out in miles and half miles and quarter miles. And so the land that we live in, not in the city so much, but outside, if you're a farmer, you have a quarter section. So a quarter section is 1/4 of a section of land that's 1 mile by 1 mile. So that's how they divided the land way back when. And so it's embedded in our very, industry, our very life here. Also, all of the lengths for wood, like if you're building something, you would buy an 8-foot board, or you'd have a 4-foot sheet of plywood. So feet are embedded in our building materials as well. So we need to kind of learn about them, even though a lot of us use centimeters and meters a lot. Okay, so what's some interesting things about these units? Well, an inch, first of all, is abbreviated by this little, kind of like 2 little hatch marks there, okay? So 1, and then if you see kind of 2 like abbreviation marks or little hatch marks there, that's the symbol for an inch. And what a referent is sort of like a real life thing that you would refer to remember kind of what this length is. And so if you hold up your thumb like this, if you are, a sort of, I guess, a typical average sized person, then the width of your thumb right here, between the width of your thumb at the knuckle there, would be about 1 inch. So if you are estimating, how long something is or how tall something is, you could quickly just use your thumb because most people have at least one thumb. But you could use your thumb real quick to go 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches. This is about 4.5 inches tall. That's my quick guess using what we call a referent. Now, I think I have an actual tape measure around here somewhere. Give me 1 second. Whoa. Here we go. You guys are being very quiet and attentive. I really appreciate that, by the way. So let's see. How close was I? Oh, 4.25. I guess 4.5. 4.25 inches. Okay. So again, your thumb is about 1 inch in length. The foot. Okay. Now guess what the referent would be for your foot? Okay, about the length of a person's foot. Now, some of you have really small feet. Some of you have really large feet. For me, if I were to take off my shoe right now, look at these old D-Rose shoes, eh? Pretty cool, huh? You guys know this? Okay. Anyways, this is almost exactly 1 foot. Like my size 10 shoe, okay, if you have about a size 10 shoe, that's almost exactly 1 foot. So when I'm pacing something off or counting something off, if I want to know how many feet something is, I just usually use my shoe or my feet. So let me just see exactly, this is exactly, so 12.25 inches, really. So from tip to tip is 12 1/4, so pretty much 1 foot. Also, if you look around, so if you look at the ceiling tiles, you see those ceiling tiles? Not the ones on the end that have been cut down a bit, but the ones in the middle, those are all 4 feet wide, exactly 4 feet wide by 2 feet. Okay, so 4 feet by 2 feet. The tiles on this floor right here, you see the tiles on the floor? Most tiles on most classroom floors, if you have a tile, those are exactly 1 foot by 1 foot. And so if you have your shoe on right now and you test to see the length of your foot to one of these feet, yeah, mine is just a little bit over, but those are exactly 12 inches by 12 inches. I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. Yeah, 12 by 12. Okay, so in estimating, sometimes we use what are called referents. Now, a yard, okay, everybody's built a little different, but if you take a span like this, okay, your arm span, I think that's actually from the middle of your chest to the tip of your finger. I think one arm span is this. So again, here we have a yard. This is a meter stick, but a yard is exactly 36 inches. And this only has centimeters. Isn't that nice? So let's see. So yeah, for me, my arms are a little shorter. I'm a little smaller than the maybe average man, but my one arm span would be just slightly less than 1 yard. Okay, so anyways, some reference there. And a mile, okay, if you walk at a normal pace, regular pace, for about 20 minutes, you've walked about a mile. So just to give you some idea of the length of these imperial units. Any questions? So the relationship between units, this is also important. There are 12 inches in every foot. Okay, so 1 foot length has 12 little inches, okay, inside those. So 1 foot is 12 inches. A yard is actually 3 feet. A yard is also 36 inches, okay? Now, a yard being 36 inches, how do we find that out? Because we're going to have to do some calculations here in this section. So if you think about 1 yard is 3 feet. So 1 times 3 is how many feet are in a yard, right? And there are 12 inches in every foot. So if we go 3 and we multiply that by 12 inches for each one, we get 36 inches, okay? So 1 yard right here, after we do our calculations, turns into 36 inches. Now I'm going to show you how to sketch a little picture that might help you understand how to do this, but also I'm going to show you how to multiply these kind of conversion factors together to get the right answer. So most of you will just do some multiplication or some division to convert these units, but I'll show you that in a bit. Now 1 mile is 1,760 yards. That's 1 mile. Also, it's 5,280 feet. So because there's 3 feet in every yard, if we do 1,760 times 3, and I do have a calculator that I'll show you up here on the screen, if it'll take a second to fire up. Here it comes. This is the first time I've had this out this year. So this calculator right here, if I turn that on, these are some of the graphic calculators we have here. It's a bit of an older version, but if I do 1760 times 3, I should get 5,280, and that's where that number comes from. Okay? All right, I'm going to go answer that phone, but I want you to see if you can do example 1A, okay? Go ahead and do that while I take the phone. Okay, so 5 yards to feet. Now, I have a picture over here on the right side. So if you are a visual person and if you want to sketch out a picture to help you with this, that's great. You can do that. This is how I would do that. I would draw 5 yards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you understand that there are 3 feet in each yard, if you split these up into 3 pieces, then you can literally count all of these little pieces which represent feet, and you would get to how many? 15 feet. That's correct. Okay? So pictorially, you could do that. Now, how would we do that with actual calculation? Well, again, if you have 5 yards, and each yard has, is this, am I frozen? Oh shoot, I'm frozen, hang on. Sorry, I froze it. 5 yards, if you multiply that by 3 feet for every yard, then you would get 5 times 3 is 15 feet. Now, the quicker that you can learn this part, so pause for a second, and I want you to pay very close attention. I am showing you something called unit analysis. Now, it's a big fancy word, and it's maybe a little daunting, it's a little scary, but all this is a way that you can be sure that you are either multiplying the right numbers or dividing the right numbers. And this is how it works. The units that we use, this is yards, right? That's what we start with, 5 yards. You always multiply in unit analysis, and what you do is you multiply by a conversion factor, a connection between 2 units that include the unit that you started with, and here's the yards down here, I have 1 yard, is related to 3 feet, okay? Now, you do not have to do this every time, but I want you to start thinking about this. The yards as a unit on the top of the fraction and the yards as a unit on the bottom of the fraction, they will divide out to like disappear, right? And what you're left with is this unit on top, which is feet, which means that if you multiply 5 times 3 to get 15, you will end up with the unit of feet. That's what you end up with. This is called unit analysis. And it may be like, why do we have to do that? I know just to do 5 times 3. Okay, go, fine. Just do 5 times 3. That's fine. Sometimes, though, if you have to divide, it gets a bit tricky. Like, which number do you divide on top and which one's on the bottom? Sometimes that's hard to know. So if you do unit analysis, it won't be hard to know. So I will show you this. I think you'll see it in this, either this section or coming up, unit analysis. Not a lot of teachers in grade 10 stress this. I do introduce this because when you get to grade 11 and grade 12, if you know how to do that, it's going to go much easier for you in math and in science as you kind of move forward. So I do like to make sure I teach it a little bit here now so that some of you can kind of get started on using this concept. All right, now inches. Pictorially, again, with a picture, each one of these feet has how many inches in it? How many inches in a foot again? 12. So I have 15 feet and I have 12 inches per foot. So guess what? I need to do 15 now times 12. And what is the units there? That's inches per 1 foot. So I am going to multiply 15 times 12, and that's going to leave me with inches. And what's 15 times 12? Yeah, 180. Good. Some of you guys got that already. That's awesome. So 180 inches. And if you were to count 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 and do that 15 times, you would get 180. Any thoughts or questions about that? Is some of this making sense to you? Okay. And I welcome your questions if you have questions. A lot of times I'll be able to answer your question right here and right now. We'll get it fixed up real quick. Sometimes if it takes maybe a little more time, I might maybe meet with you afterwards, or when you're doing your homework, I might come and talk to you. I can take some time during the lesson to answer some questions, but other questions I might have to do at another time. So please feel free to ask questions. I really appreciate that, because as a teacher, I have no idea what's going on inside your head. I have no idea if you get this, if you don't get it, if you're thinking about something else, if you don't care. I have no idea. So it actually helps me a lot. When you say, Mr. Maxwell, that whole unit analysis thing, I don't know how those units work. Then I at least know what some of you are thinking. So it actually helps when you ask questions. It helps me out a lot, and it'll help the class out. So feel free to ask questions. That's kind of how it works. You guys got to kind of be a part of this too. So let's do the next question, because this one's a little bit tougher. So if I have 51 inches now, okay, so I have 51 inches, and I need to convert that to feet and inches. Well, what do you mean feet and inches? That means, like, you know how we measure our height, like, 5 foot 11 inches or something like that, 6 foot 2 inches, or 4 foot 8 inches. That's what I'm talking about. So how many feet, and then how many inches left over? So for 51, you could draw a picture, if you want, of 51. Now, pictures oftentimes take a lot of time. So 51 would be really tough. Like, it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way to 51. Then what you could do is you could divide this up into sections. Here's 12, and here's another 12, and here's another 12, and so on. You could literally count that up, right? You could do that, okay? So 51, how many full groups of 12 do we have in 51? Do we have 4? Okay. Because 4 groups of 12 is 48. So that's a number that's just under 51. That's really close. So you're right. We have 4 groups of 12. And then how many would we have left over? Because 4 groups of 12 gets us to 48 inches, right? So how many do we have left over to get to 51 here? Okay, so 49, 50, 51, that's 3 inches left over. See that? So the answer here from the picture is 4 feet, 3 inches. Okay? So if anyone in here is 4 foot 3 inches, that means you're exactly 51 inches tall. Okay? Now, is there a way to do this without drawing a big picture like this? Yep, we could do unit analysis. So watch this carefully. This is going to be cool. If you start with 51 inches, remember, unit analysis is always multiplication. But I need to get rid of inches, and I need to write this in feet. So guess what? I'm going to write feet down here and inches on top. No, I'm sorry, my bad. The opposite. Inches on the bottom and feet on top. Why? Because I want to eliminate the number of inches here and get the number of feet. So there's 1 foot, and that is to 12 inches. That's the relationship there. So I do 51 times 1 divided by 12. So 51 times 1 divided by 12, that will give me the number of feet. So just be patient and watch this. This is going to take a couple steps. So let's see, 51 divided by 12. See, that's what it is. 51 times 1 divided by 12 is 4.25. So this is 4.25 feet. Now that's not the answer they're looking for, right? They're not looking for a decimal number of feet. They're looking for full feet and then how many leftover inches. So this is where it gets a little tricky. If you pay attention, 4 is what we want to keep. It's 4 feet, but 0.25 feet, okay, is how many inches? Well, you could do the unit analysis again and do 1 foot to 12 inches, see? And now, a second calculation, 0.25 times 12. And 0.25 times 12 on your calculator will give you 3. And so that would be the leftover part, that's the 0.25 part, actually translates into 3 inches. So 4 foot, 3 inches. In this case, this is where the sign analysis can get a little bit confusing to some, and I get that, but you have to do like multiple steps. You find out how many full feet you have, then you use the decimal to find out how many full inches you have, and so on. Okay, so 2 ways to get to that. All right, the final one is yards, feet, and inches. So yards, feet, and inches. So pictorially, or just thinking through this, you could say, how many groups of 3 feet do I have? Because that's 1 yard, right? 3 feet. Come on now. So how many groups of 3 feet do I have? So I'm going to write a bunch here, but I don't think we have that many. So this 3 feet is actually how many inches? 36. Yeah, 36 inches. So I have 36 inches here, and then this 2 yards would actually be 72 inches, right? So that's way more than I actually have. So I do not have 2 complete yards. Does everybody see that? The 51 ends about here. So I have 1 yard, 36 inches. So how many's left over to 51 there now? What is that? 15? 15 inches? Okay, that's what's left over. So how many full feet do I have inside there? I have 1 foot. So this is, okay. So 1 yard, I have 1 foot, which takes me to 12 inches, which takes me to about here. And then how many inches do I have left over? 15 minus 12 is 3 inches, okay? So that's the answer to part B, number 2. Could we do that with unit analysis? I'm going to take a few moments just to teach you how to do that. And again, I don't know how you want to do this. I'm giving you some tools, but this is how you could do it with unit analysis. You say 51 inches. What can I convert that to first? Let's go to yards, okay? Well, what's the conversion factor between inches and yards? You know that there are 36 inches in 1 yard, don't you? So we'll put the inches on top and inches on the bottom so they cancel out. That's our first multiplication. That gets me yards. So what's 51 divided by 36? 51 divided by 36 is 1.4, and we're going to round that to 2. 1.42. Now that's yards, okay? So this is where our 1 full yard comes from. I have 1 full yard. Now I got to deal with this 0.42 yards now, don't I? So now let's do a second calculation. I want to change that yards into feet. So here's yards, okay, and here's feet. There are 3 feet in every 1 yard. The yards are going to cancel out. And what's, wait, what? Oh, this is, sorry, 0.42. I erased the decimal. 0.42. So what's 0.42 times 3? 0.42 times 3 is 1.26. So 0.42 yards is actually 1.26. That's where I get the 1 full foot from. You see, 1 full foot. And then finally, the third calculation would be, I'll do it in red down here so you can see the difference. 0.26, what's that going to be? Feet is how many inches? So your conversion factor, you put feet on the bottom, you put inches on top, that's what you want. Do you know the relationship? Yes, 12 inches for every 1 foot. So what you do here is you go 26 times 0.26 times 12. And that gets you rounded to 3 inches. Okay? 3 inches. Okay, so unit analysis, I don't know, this is your first look at it probably, and it might be a little confusing. Don't worry, we'll take time to practice more. And to be honest, you don't have to use unit analysis in grade 10. You really don't. You can get around it. But in grade 11 and 12, you really have to know how to use it. So that's why I'm trying to introduce it a little bit here now. Okay? So that's the unit analysis. All right. Oh, there's some more work for that. Okay. What time are we at? 10:27. Okay, we got 10 more minutes. Is it okay if I kind of help you a little bit with your homework? Can I do some homework questions with you? Okay, let's go. So if we go to mrmathwell.com, if you go to courses, your course is Foundation of Pre-Cal Math 10, right? So if you hit that page, you go down there, you will see your homework here. So this is your homework for 1.1. And I'm going to do some of these questions with you, and the rest you'll have to do on your own as homework tonight. Remember, grade 10, you're going to have math, a little bit of math homework almost every day. So get used to putting in 10, 20, 30 minutes of math homework, and you will understand and you'll keep up with the class, okay? So I'm going to copy this. Again, that's mrmathwell.com. I'm going to plop that down here. This is going to be your assignment, okay? So let's start with number 3. I will do number 3 with you here shortly. Okay, so I'm going to get you to go to the, not you guys in here, but anybody that's listening to this video. I'm going to make a separate homework video for number 3, so that's where we're going to move next. Bye.